Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to another and third edition of Pep Talks in the Morning. Since we are under quarantine, as you would notice, we are all coming to you in three different locations because technology has allowed us to bridge the gap that isolation and quarantine has imposed on us. Today is Wednesday, the 1st of April. It is finally April for all of those who thought that March was going on just a little bit too long. I am one of those people. I'm your host this morning for Pep Talks in the Morning, Felicia Holder, and I'm joined this morning by the very handsome Mr. Anthony DeFuro, Deputy Political Leader. Anthony, good morning.
Morning, Felicia. Morning, Stacey. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
And we also have Stacey, Alberta Stacey. Stacey, how you want us to refer to you in this discussion? Stacey or Alberta, you choose.
Doesn't matter.
I'm calling you
Doesn't matter.
Stacey for this program. We have Alberta Stacey Perdine, who is our caretaker for Barataria Sawan. Stacey, good morning.
Good morning, Felicia. Good morning, Anthony.
And I would like to thank you both for joining me on what is supposed to be a very interesting discussion this morning. We are in a COVID-19 world right now. I mean, it's all everybody and anybody can talk about. And it has impacted the way we are doing things as a country, as a world for that matter. For those who live here in Trinidad, you would know that Johnny Corner actually tomorrow was supposed to be CA examination, and we are now talking about postponing SCA examination and kick off the discussion on education because on the horizon we were supposed to have our SCA, CXC, and CAPE examination. But of course, we're seeing now that because of this COVID 19 situation where the majority of the country is in isolation, is in quarantine, if you're not considered essential, most likely you're home just. Children are not going to school. Schools have been closed for the past 2 weeks. This is week three of schools being closed. And SEA, CXC, and CAPE hang in the balance. Now, Anthony, Stacey, I know in our research in the articles that I would have sent you, as early as March the 12th, this COVID 19 was announced as a crisis on March the 13th. And March the 12th, just the day before, our education minister announced that Mr. Anthony Garcia that we were not going to postpone SCA in light of the COVID virus. He said that he had not instructed teachers to do that, but not teachers, sorry, the education board, but that they were encouraging students to do things like wash their hands more often, avoid touching their faces, etc. That was March the 12th. On March the 16th, 4 days later, they announced that they would have to postpone the SEA examination. Then there's March the 26th, that they announced, which was just last week actually, they announced that CXC and CAPE will be postponed most likely to July. Now, all of this, they're talking dates like mid-May and July. This is all under the assumption, of course, that COVID-19 decides to depart us, that isolation and quarantine really is or does the job, and it is safe once again as a nation to go out. But I'm bringing these two up because I'm not sure about you. If as a parent, is it this year that your daughter is doing examination?
Is that to me?
Yeah, I asked if your daughter was doing examination this year.
No. That was last year.
So she is already in school right now in Form 1, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, she's not in school right now. Because she's at home.
I mean, she's.
But I would say
Go
this.
ahead.
I would say this though. As to what you were saying before. Again, it's another example of our leadership simply not being able to be proactive and doing the homework which is necessary in having the information to do the right decisions moving forward. Because again, the school, we talk about it where Carnival was concerned, we should have cancelled that or push it back. It's the same thing where the schools are concerned. The minister was supposed to have enough information to indicate as to the school should be stopped. And we have to simply sit down and wait and see how it is managed here on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago, aside from how it's being managed outside the shores of Trinidad and Tobago. But we have to see what is happening on the ground and try to understand the pattern and the possible rate in which infections or transmissions was taking place. I mean, it's a host of different pieces of information to create the right puzzle, right pieces, in order to make a proper decision. And again, we are talking about people in leadership. This is education. Look, all the children home right now. What is the system that is put in place to still have the children which is at home occupied, having some part of the curriculum where they're able to study at home? Is there a national program that is being used right now where our
Well,
Ministry of Education is concerned?
Well, as of right now, and I played devil's advocate last night. I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning on the cxc.gov.org site. I registered as a student because I heard that they now have an e-learning portal that can allow students to log in and go through courses on the curriculum. Now, I did this, like I said, completely unbiased. I wanted to see what this e-learning platform would involve. One of the things that stuck out to me, because I went to the the communications syllabus, the page never loaded. I mean, it seemed fairly easy enough to use, but the page, it never loaded. And what stuck out to me was the fact that there were free modules as well as paid modules. And to begin with, if you're doing this and you're offering this as a service across the board, I don't think anything on that website should be paid. You shouldn't have to pay to learn anything. And if this was just a test, because I spoke to a teacher, actually, I'm going to bring her into the conversation in a little bit. I spoke to a teacher and she said that this site is actually being demoed for the past year. And the minister had previously said that we were not going the way of e-learning. You asked Anthony, what is there in place? I know for SEA, they have online, there's an online portal similar to CAPE and CXC. It is offering e-learning classes because I believe that one was up before CAPE and CXC. And it also is allowing you to do testing, etc. There's a television program that they have going on that is allowing students to log in to tune in on an afternoon and do revision and exercises with the class. Now, I'm bringing this up because that kind of sounds good, right? But in speaking to the teacher and in finding out a little bit more about this, these are things that actually they only really began using around the advent of the COVID-19 virus, pointing out the fact that our PEP policies clearly work because we have been saying for the longest while, make education virtual, put the education system online, make it so that you don't have to be in a classroom to learn. The blackboards and the whiteboards and the markers, those are things of the 1980s. We are now in an advanced world where children know how to use cell phones and tablets better than their parents. They're actually ones who are showing them. So why did it take a COVID-19 crisis to bring about this change? Why did it take a COVID-19 crisis to implement policies that the Progressive Empowerment Party has been preaching from day one would work to the benefit of all? Feel free to jump in here.
Stacey?
Yeah. So I totally agree with that, Felicia. That is a valid point that you have made, that you made. One of our policies actually that I really just want to touch on was basically one of the education policies. which is number number 6, which is prestige education for all, abolish the abusive SCA, make all schools 10 years zoned schools, establish a grade point average system that monitors the performance of students, teachers, and principals, creates constituency education board of supervisors. That would have worked really good within this factor right now.
It would have worked perfectly because we would no longer have to worry about that SCA nightmare that thousands of young children are now panicked about at 11 and 10 years old. You are now studying. I know if I was 11 or 10 years old going through this COVID-19, and I would have been happy. I had no exams. But for those who are concerned about the trauma that accompanies this examination, which is what school am I going to pass for, they are, I am sure, going through some level of stress as children because you're not in school. I saw a parent online, a pep parent actually last night talking about the fact that all of these lessons that he paid, all of the money that he spent sending his daughter to lessons is basically washed down the drain now because with her being absent from school, with her not being able to attend lessons, all of that knowledge is basically, I don't want to say it's gone because I'm hoping that the child would have retained some of it, but it's worthless now, seeing as there's no clear idea of what is going to happen with the SE exam. Now, Stacey, that policy that you introduced, like I said, is perfect, and it's a wonder that it took this pandemic for them to actually begin looking at doing these things online. And most importantly, the pandemic has showed us where the SDA exam is completely irrelevant and not needed. These children could have been told, forget examination. We all going through a tough time. This is obviously going to impact your ability to learn. Let's look at your GPA for the term, for the semester. These are some online courses that you can participate in, and at the end of the semester, if or when the COVID-19 virus decides to pass, you have online testing again that allows the children to establish a grade point average, and you're not worrying about what school you're going to be placed in, because if schools are 10 years old schools, you would just be advancing to the next level in your education. But in fact, we have the complete opposite. We have now an entire board scrambling to try and figure out how are we going to rearrange basically the education system to give the students a chance to graduate into that secondary school level. And I'm anticipating an absolute madness as it pertains to that because with the CXC in particular, I was reading that they were going to do testing on the SBs. And I remember I put in particular when I was a student, I did terrible in some of the in term testing, and I was looking forward to the end of semester test to make up and recover in those marks. But consider you as a student now, that would have been your scenario. You no longer, or it's hanging in the balance, how are you going to recover, especially if they're only going to judge you based on what you would have done throughout the semester. So we're posing a challenge for the students. And at this point, Anthony, I do, and Stacey, I do want to bring in Keisha Lewis, who is a member of the party as well as a teacher in biology. But she's not just a teacher, she also specializes in online learning and e-learning, a direction like you, Stacey, and Anthony know the Progressive Empowerment Party heavily advocates a direction that we would like to take education in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's get Keisha into the conversation. And I think the chicken wants to outdo Keisha.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Keisha.
Hi, good day, good day.
In the morning with Anthony Dufour and Stacey Pudine.
Okay, well, hello
Morning,
to
Keisha.
everyone. Good morning to all viewers and listeners.
Keisha, I wanted to bring you in this conversation on education because, like we discussed offline, SEA, which was actually supposed to be tomorrow, has been
Mm,
postponed. You told me indefinitely to probably mid-May.
yeah,
That
that's
is
the
like
first date. Yeah,
that is again assuming that the COVID-19 pandemic is behind us.
yes, definitely. It can be pushed back again. I'm guessing if by the end of April, um, if things start to ease up by the end of April, they may leave it till mid-May. And so let's see if things improve by then. Yeah,
And what
because
about
it's a lot of stress.
it is, and I was discussing that aspect that this must be very stressful for the students themselves. SEA itself
Mm,
is a stressful examination. SEA
yeah,
determines where you are, where it basically determines at 10, 11, 12 years old where you are going to be for the rest of your life. And it may
yeah,
sound like
basically.
a harsh way to put it, but it is because students have learned that
Mm,
if I pass for a bad school, I'm not going to get a good job. And if I pass for a good school, I have a fighting chance. So the
yeah.
SEA examination in itself is stressful. And now we're adding in the aspect of it hanging in the balance and students not
Mhm.
knowing what is going to happen. There's also, I believe, a fear for some students that they're going to be kept back a further years. That's something that you've heard of
Um,
any students being concerned about.
some students may, that is a fear because remember, if this the date for the exam gets pushed back further and further, there's going to come a point where they just can't, you basically end up in the next school year, right? Because even though, yes, you have a date for the exam, but remember, you also have to count in the evaluation of the exam. We don't even know how they're going to do that in light of the COVID because, I mean, you're looking at teachers sitting down in a space marking the exam. Um, they haven't really talked to us about that as yet. So that will take time, and then they have to send it to PXC to do whatever further evaluation, bring it back, appoint students. So all of that takes time. So the further back they push the date, the greater the possibility of these children at this point ending up going into the next school year, or even possibly having their first school year being cut by two-thirds or a third at least. You could end up in a situation of students going into their secondary school, making this huge transition in the middle of the school year because they've only been appointed to their school by, say, the second term. That's the worst case, well, a worst case scenario for that. And that is a lot of stress for these young people, especially at this time in their life. So yeah, it is a possibility, and it is. I can see parents and students getting very worried about that happening.
Keisha, you,
Yeah.
you also mentioned to me that in light of what is happening, that the Ministry of Education has taken a page out of the Progressive Empowerment Party handbook and actually
Hmm.
started to implement other means and mediums of learning, which would include television programs, revision programs,
Hmm.
like you mentioned, and
Yes.
e-learning websites. Tell me a little bit more about those websites, when they were established, and how effective are they right now in terms of teaching the
Mm.
students?
Okay. Well, from what I've learned so far, the Ministry of Education, in particular, their junior minister, Mr. Lovell Francis, he's been pushing the whole online learning aspect. And from what I understand, for the last, probably within this school year, and probably, how the ministry does things. Everything is, it's in train until, boom, all of a sudden it's there. And they're like, well, we had this the whole time. So this program they've had is they actually have a website. I'll call it out for you for viewers in a while. But they've been signing up the various schools in Trinidad and Tobago to a learning management system, also known as an LMS. And the idea behind an LMS is basically it's like an online space to manage your learning. You basically share content and etc. A very robust one would do a lot more than that. The one that the ministry has focuses mostly on providing content, meaning, what you get in class will be like handouts, it's exercises, worksheets, stuff like that. It would just be now put online. Alright. I think they also have option of quizzes and little assessments students can do to revise, etc. various subjects. So that's where they are right now. When this COVID-19 shutdown happened, what I observed is that they set things up and they were sending the word out to teachers and parents to have their children sign up to the Learning Hub, and they were supposed to do it through their principal. So it's not something you just go online and just sign up. You're supposed to go through your principal. The principal is supposed to give you the password, etc. And you sign up as a teacher, student, etc. And you use the hub, right? So like me, I am not working with any ministry. I work freelance as a teacher, tutoring and so on. So I can't just go in on that Learning Hub and just access it. You have to be a teacher, etc., attached to a school. Okay. But from what I can see, because he has been sharing screenshots of stuff from the website, and from what I can see, especially the C students, there is a lot of content there. The quality of the assessment, I cannot speak to it because I have not been able to see it and evaluate it. So that's just the website. On the TV aspect now, I noticed that they went like at a pace, bringing on various teachers, taking them to the ministry and having them produce actual TV programs with the teachers standing up in front of whiteboard and teaching and recording and editing, and then now putting it up on PTT and CNC3, right? So they will have various teachers now coming on in front of camera and teaching and producing that and putting it up. It's amazing to me how fast they were able to do that, which of course brings up the question of why weren't we doing this before?
Well,
why did it take
that
this?
was my next question, because I mean,
Yes.
2 weeks ago we announced that we were going to shut down basically the country.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, and it caused a mad panic, not just in the groceries, but in the within the education system as well, because we have students who are going to school constantly. Anthony and Stacey, feel free to jump in the conversation at any time and with your own questions. But we had this mad panic to revise the education system, and it is amazing to me what we have accomplished in less than 2 weeks. What we could not have accomplished in the past decade. It is absolutely amazing to me. And if it is we are proving right now that we have the capacity and we have the facilities to be able to educate students through e-learning, why are we not doing it regularly?
Yeah, and I just want to bring in the CXC issue now, because more than a year ago, CXC indicated that they are making a push towards e-testing. So when I say e-testing, that means instead of sitting down in a center and doing the exam, you're doing the exam online. And they started rolling that out. Usually when CXC, because they're a regional organization, they would roll things out country to country and based on individual agreements with each nation, right? So they started rolling out the e-testing and just making it known that this is the direction they want to take. They've already shifted the actual assessment of the CXC exams, where teachers are marking the CXC exams. Most of it is now done online already. All right. I remember when they started talking about this about a year or so ago. I remember our Minister Garcia, indicating that Trinidad and Tobago is not ready for online testing.
I
So
remember
you
that.
have, yeah, you have, so in other words, you have countries like Jamaica and so on that are, gung ho, ready to go. Okay, let's try this. And Trinidad and Tobago was basically, well, no, well, the minister speaking for Trinidad and Tobago indicating no. Trinidad and Tobago is not ready for online testing. Now let's bring in another issue here. When this current administration came into government, right? We already had a laptop program. Yes, it was not the best rollout of a laptop program. I was in the
Terrible.
at that time. I can tell you, it was not the best rollout at all, but it was something. And as they came into government, that was scrapped. Now, imagine if they had just done the more reasonable thing of you keep the program and you fix the kinks. There were a lot of kinks. Fix the kinks, keep the program going, right? Imagine if we had that right now, right? Because right now, the Jamaican government now has to purchase, I think about, oh gosh, either between, I know that's huge magnitude, but between 10 and 100,000 laptops. They have to now rush and purchase
Wow.
10,000 plus laptops in order to facilitate their students in light of this COVID-19 situation. And we already had a program, we already had a distribution system, we already had record system, etc. in the various schools.
But what we had was a system that was being managed under incompetent people who didn't understand that if you were giving a child a laptop, you couldn't just give a child a laptop and say it was a free-for-all without rules, stipulations, and conditions tied to it. So we had students breaking apart the laptops, treating it like it was nothing important. And in essence,
I remember I was in the system teaching at the time, and there was several issues with that whole laptop situation. On one hand, yes, it's good that the students had laptops, but you had a situation where you had laptops in a school, students in a classroom where the classroom has two outlets, right? You have situations where a school isn't even wired properly. Wow. A school doesn't even have enough Wi-Fi, etc. The teachers are not trained in the use of laptops and online learning. Online learning is not something they just get up one morning, they walk in the class and say, okay guys, let's do online learning. It's something that requires preparation. I always refer to a quote from Google Education that online learning is something you have to do with a lot of prior planning. All right, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's not the exact quote. But and so therefore that was, as I said, there were a lot of things. But as I said before, if they had simply done what a reasonable government thinking rationally would have done in a situation like that, was basically let the program run and fix the kinks.
Exactly.
Them, and we would have been in a much better position.
We would, right? Because what they did basically was give technology to an education system that was still stuck in the Stone Age. You can't be giving a school 1,000 laptops or 500 laptops, and then a classroom only has outlets for 2. You're obviously not thinking holistically and thinking forward thinking and really looking to move and advance education into the 21st century.
Exactly. I will say that our education system is barely scraping into the 19th century. And we're living in a world where, the education systems are moving into the 21st century. And I mean, it's an issue that's in discussion throughout the world on a very regular basis. And I mean, one of these days I'll share a shot of a map that they did from one of the research papers, just showing, the levels of active education in terms of the level of the education with respect to activities, how passive it is, how up to date it is. And the whole of the Caribbean was just, it was shades of blue, and the whole of the Caribbean was just big white. there wasn't even like a little pastel blue to say, okay, we have a little bit of, education moving,
We're not
progressive
moving
education going
anywhere.
on.
We
No, and that's
and
an
with
international
a dinosaur as a
research.
minister of education, we are clearly going to be stuck
Yeah,
in the stone
yeah,
age. Anthony, you have
yeah.
a daughter. You have a daughter who's going to secondary school. As a parent, tell me, how do you see her education being handled by this board of education under which we as a country fall? What do you think about her schooling as it is right now? And I'm not talking right now just during the COVID period. I mean generally and on a normal basis. What is it like for you as a parent, for her as a student? Was that sorry?
Because I said
I'm
that
now hearing you.
it's traumatic. You
Mm-hmm.
hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Looking at how the education system is dispensing information to the young people, again, you said it before, we are in the 21st century. We're not, back in the Stone Ages, and we have a wealth of technology at our disposal, and not being able to utilize that to the best of our ability to actually have a level of efficiency, giving young people the right information, not just for now and the present and giving them historical information, but actually streamlining, especially as a nation, a developing nation as Trinidad and Tobago, within the curriculum in itself, not truly addressing a real agenda on a national level as to creating the skill sets which is needed really to develop Trinidad and Tobago, instead of not having a country that don't have hope and opportunity. And all of our young people, one of the aspirations is to jump on a Caribbean Airlines or American Airlines or whichever airlines, get off the country, go into another man's land and look for hope and opportunity there, because it's easier to get outside than it is to get right here. And then we sit and wonder why our country is not developed the way it should be after 57 years and all these administrations passing by, and Trinidad once had the best education in the world. What happened to that? We don't
Yes.
have P&M education. That this is the gift to the people, but that education in itself has made the people more stupid than before, where we have lost a sense of common sense. We right now, we are operating in a system that truly is not benefiting the country. It's not benefiting the development and the future of Trinidad and Tobago. It's not really benefiting our young people, because they are learning skill sets that is almost non-existent. It's being phased out. We are not embracing where we are in our history, in our nation's history, in the development of Trinidad and Tobago. We're at a point right now that, yes, we are fortunate enough to have the Progressive Empowerment Party. We have a lot of critical minds here. And a large portion of these critical minds are minds that has left Trinidad and Tobago, have seen what it is to live in a first and to see how things can actually work. Coming back home and implementing ideas and policies and proposals towards developing a nation that can address our demographics, our nationalities, our different religious aspects. We are in an island that is very unique, a country that is very, very unique. We have just about every race that you can possibly think about on the shores of Trinidad and Tobago. We have just about every religion. The point is that we are Caribbean. What more can you possibly ask for with the wealth and world of resources that Trinidad and Tobago have? All of this is stuff that can be inserted within our own education system at different levels, from kindergarten to the primary level, to the secondary, and to the college and tertiary education level. I mean, the point is that we have no real direction as a nation as to how we are building the proper road for our young people to take the country over and to take it to another level of betterment. to a more efficient environment, one that other countries, the same way we can sit and talk about Singapore and Dubai and all these other countries that's doing very well and that has taken their leadership to task in bringing betterment, development to their countries, having the world over talk about them. That's where Trinidad is supposed to be today. After everything that we've had in our hands, in our grasp, our education is one of the key aspects of this, because from the day that red, white, and black went up, we have at least 3 generations that come and gone in between that has come through the education system in a big way, in and out, and still was not able to be in a position and having a level of hope and having a level of idea and a level of true agenda and development for the nation, where they themselves and their skill sets could have been applied right here in Trinidad and Tobago in developing us to a first world nation status, in developing us to a place that made sense, where laws work and people had rights, that we had same power, and we continuously preach and preach and preach all of this, and yet there's nothing still being done. I read an article just today of a UNC minister, I think it's Minister Dean, I believe, from one of the southern constituencies, talking about it is paramount, it is important for us to now look at food security. Food security, no. Now, I will say this. I am very happy to hear that from the opposition camp, personally. Why? Because this is a body that is part of government, present-day government. You're in the opposition. You're supposed to steer the country in a way and be the voice of the people, asking the questions of the government that is controlling our treasury and controlling our destiny for this period in time of 5 years that they have as a term. But I'm saying this, it is 4 years since the opposition has been sitting in that seat, and it's only now that stand and make up a standing point of us trying to be food secure right now, to food independent right now. Well, again, better late than never. But this is something that the PEP has been preaching for the last.
I disagree. Not even better late than never, because you had a chance, you had an opportunity to talk food security and you didn't. Don't come now to try and score political points by talking as if you ever had plans or thoughts or even ideas of an inkling of wanting to secure our food security as a nation. I'm sorry, I'm not even going to take that. You're trying to pacify the people.
Very true, very true.
To pass it off as if you cared. If you cared, within the 5 years that you were there in office, you would have spoken about food security. Before Kamla Persad-Bethesda, there was Basdio Pandey. What was being done for food security under that administration? Kamla talk about reopening Caroni Limited. Where was that?
Yes.
A lot of talk and promises. So don't come to talk food security now when you know you can't do anything because you're no longer in office and it's easy to talk. You had your chance, and I'm sorry, like I say, I can't. I take that as a whole papi show.
No, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is a papi show. It's all showed. It's an election year, and they have to shine themselves. Right now, they're both sides of the fence is using a lot of PEP policies. And the public needs to understand, you look at the archive, you look at the timestamps on the policies that we've had from day one, 2017. This has been preached every day by this political vehicle called the Progressive Empowerment Party, by its members, of food security, of redeveloping a nation, of creating Trinidad into a true first world nation where things actually work. I call it, you call it, the Progressive Empowerment Party calls it 21 policies. That's where we start. That's where we start. Take a look at it, Trinidad and Tobago. You make the decision. You take the opportunity now. We are presenting the information to you in the public space, and we're not making it vague. We're giving you details and understanding exactly what it takes in order for Trinidad and Tobago to move forward, for the citizens of the country to actually have a level of betterment, have a level of worth of money in their pockets, spending power, proper action, proper health care, proper security. The point is, it's not rocket science trying to go to the moon. We are not trying to go to Mars. We are simply trying to create a country that simply works. We have the resources, we have the skill sets. It's simply ensuring we can have people that are true leaders, people who are actually willing to serve the people and to actually go in there and get the job done. Simple, simple thing. That is all it is.
Indeed.
You have ministers right
Stacey,
now that are simply collecting a salary and not actually doing the job. They're not doing the homework as to what their portfolio entails. They are not having the body of people surrounding them and giving them the proper guidance and the way forward as to operate the country where their portfolios are concerned. No one. No one. You have right now a pharmacist that is the Minister of Health. Really? Well, okay then. If you are the one that got the seat and this is the portfolio you have, get a proper team around you now, man. Get a proper team that can give you proper guidance. One that can be proactive. One that can allow you to create systems and policies and put things in place in such a way that we can anticipate just about the best case scenario to the worst case scenario and not skip a beat. That is where we need to be. It is not rocket science. It's simply getting the bloody job done. And the question is how long are we going to continue talking this garbage about who is responsible from who is not responsible, when at the end of the day, everybody with the people that still holding the shitty under the stick and is our ass to catch outside here. This is not making sense, and I am not happy as a citizen, aside from being a part of a political vehicle to bring change. Yes, that's why I'm here. But the point is, sitting here as a citizen, having to look at my family and friends and my neighbors in the position that we are in, not having anyone across the board to seek our interests. How am I supposed to care about this? How can any citizen feel secure about this? Yes, I looked at a live there last night, some elderly area with people who are from 70 go up to nearly 100 years old. You're talking about we're in a pandemic now. WASA not even providing water for these people. Over 20-something homes in an area that cannot get any pipe-borne water. In a time that you are talking about, we are having a pandemic. People need to wash. People need to be cleansing. Need to be clean. And what are we doing? And who are we going to blame?
Agreed with you, and I want to bring back Alberta, Stacey, and Keisha into the convo here as we look to wrap up education, because I mean, everything that you're saying is right, Anthony, and our failure to manage and govern Trinidad and Tobago in the past 57 years, 58 years, is truly being reflected now that we're scrambling to find and put systems in place where they should have been already, or the foundation should have already been laid, tested, and troubleshooted long ago. Stacey, you mentioned one of the PEP policies is to zone schools and have the zone schools managed by a constituency board of education. And I'm thinking, if we had that happening now, rather than have a general a general learning site, you can say, to address the entire country, schools of which would be at different levels in terms of their advancement, in terms of where they were in the syllabus. Imagine if we had that constituency board right now, which could have activated 41 times across the country to deal with the schools within their zone, to deal with the fact that we have this education is clearly being not undermined, but it's being threatened at the moment, and we need to come together and find a way to not just do this for individual schools across the country or as a collective, but under the zone and constituency board, where this way the board of education, who knows about the schools, who knows has data on grade point averages and where students are advancing, they would have been in a better place, don't you think, to be able to address what we are facing right now?
Yes, Felicia, yes, it would have been way better. You see, under the Progressive Employment Party policy, the Board of Supervisors, it would help you manage your constituency or your community, which will then lead to nation building. And that is something that we want to go forward, right? So therefore,
Definitely.
that would have been an excellent idea. But then we have a senseless form of direction, or should I say, a senseless or incompetent bunch of government officials. So therefore, we
I live
can't proceed like that.
I live Belmont, and I mean it's no secret that Belmont is considered. Certain areas in Belmont are considered hot risk, well, not hot risk, but hot spots and at risk areas. And it's no secret that there's a level of poverty that permeates the lives of the community. And just right here in my very immediate neighborhood, I know of children who I am positive are not being well, they don't have access to the education because, like Keisha would have pointed out earlier, that laptop system was discontinued. I know that they cannot afford a television system, so you just have children in the yard wasting away. And I'm thinking, had we really had a board of supervisors for education, we would have been able to ensure that no student was left behind. No child would have gone unnoticed or fallen under the radar because there's no system to track and pay attention to these students, particularly students that come from poor families who cannot afford all of the niceties of laptops and computers that should ideally be given to them by the school system. Again, Keisha mentioned it. The laptop idea was not a bad idea. It was a perfect idea. The management of the laptop distribution system, however, was absolutely terrible. But it's not fair that the students now, particularly in this pandemic, in this period of isolation, have no access to education, or at least some of them have no access to education because we don't have a government that is able to manage the distribution of 20,000 laptops. It's not fair.
And
And
I'm curious, yeah, to speak to that whole aspect of how we have not responded in a very robust way to this situation. Because even with the right training and the right advice, even if a child doesn't have a laptop, even if a child doesn't have a television, you have their phone. Everybody have a smartphone, right? And some simple as WhatsApp. You can use WhatsApp to keep in communication with your students. Set up a WhatsApp group, and we know about that in PEP, right? You set up your WhatsApp group, you send your information, because because I have a Facebook page talking about these things, and I've been putting out stuff that, look, you can use WhatsApp, you can set up WhatsApp group. There are activities, assignments, etc., that you can give a child that doesn't require a lot of heavy duty, wide bandwidth access to internet. Right? You just have a little mobile data and you could access it. There are applications that actually they develop for refugee situations and refugee camps that does not have robust internet access that allows for you to still send stuff online to your students. Right? And there's so much stuff out there available that if there was more planning and there was more training of the educators, of the administrators in the schools, we would have handled this a lot better. Because, yes, you have the learning hub and so on, and you have the television. But right now, as both, Tony just said it, his daughter is home. I don't know if any learning is going on. I do it, and her teachers are reaching out to her. My own son, I check in on him regularly, and I'm asking, your teachers reaching out to you, have they been teaching you online? He's like, no, they're playing game, right? So, yes, access is there, there's stuff being done, but there's no monitoring. There's no checking to see, okay, are teachers still reaching out to students and teaching them? And yes, it's a traumatic situation. Yes, you have to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to look at dealing with their emotional aspects. But for many of these young people, school was their safe place. Being able to see my teacher's face, knowing that my teacher reached out to me, would make a huge difference for so many children. Because I know I get up in the morning and I know I get a ping on my WhatsApp and my teacher saying, hey, hello, everybody. Everybody okay? Okay, this is what we're going to do this week. All right? You have the whole week. Try to do this. Do a little home experiment. Let's share pictures of work that we did. You did a little drawing. Let's share the drawings that we did. You know, that sense of community with your class.
Keisha,
Right?
that is a very valid point that you brought up, because now I have to ask, mentioning the children in my community who I know for a fact are doing no e-learning or logging on into nothing, what provision is being made? Because we're talking about possibly postponing these exams, not canceling, but postponing these exams. What provision is being made for these students who are going to be left behind? There's definitely going to be a percentage of the population, particularly in those poor and rural communities, who are going to be left behind. This is where we say things can't happen in isolation, because poverty does impact your ability to learn. Let's be fair, let's be honest. A child who comes from a background of privilege is going to have an advantage over a child who is from a poor family with 5 different children, no internet access, nobody has a smartphone, mommy is still using a Me Too, computer and internet. We can't afford that. What provision is going to be made for those students who now have to face the brunt of an SCA examination at the end of all of this madness?
Yeah, and they're home, and you know for whom school was sanctuary, right? Home was not a safe place. Home was not a place where I could relax and just quarantine is not back to me. Quarantine is hell.
Exactly.
Right?
For some children, school was an escape. There's that missing aspect now, and with the lack of a real board of supervisors to be constantly checking it, because to me, as soon as, or at least under Progressive Empowerment Party, had this pandemic struck and we are now told we are home for a month, one of the first things the board of supervisors would have been responsible for is getting students that fall under the purview of your constituency, speaking to all of the principals, sure that the principals drill down all of this, and making sure that the teachers drill down to all of their classrooms, all of their subjects, that they are keeping in touch, like you say, with the students to make sure that no child is left behind.
Yeah, exactly, because we have no way of knowing which teachers are still reaching out to the students, which teachers are not.
It should be mandatory. I think it should be absolutely mandatory.
Yeah, and I don't think that I'll be learning how and so on, but how do you know how many teachers are actually going out there and using it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I mean, I think as you talked about the board of supervisors with education, I mean, one of the first things that should be in place in schools is an e-learning plan for emergency situations, because it's not just COVID, you have hurricane, you have a school, the toilet back up, and everybody has to stay home for some day. You know, there are actual plans and protocols that you can put in place beforehand. You can set up an emergency timetable, right, for your school, so that when the school is closed for whatever reason, schooling still goes on. And I mean, that goes on in other countries where you have snow days or something is going on. You actually have a protocol in place for, okay, when this snow day is going on, this is who you communicate with. How do you communicate with them? What platforms are we using? How do we reach out to the parents? All of these different things that you can actually put down and write down and put in place. Exactly. And you don't have to wait until a huge disaster like COVID to cause you to now be rushing and scrambling like headless chicken, looking for, okay, let's grab some teachers and make them teach in front of board, in front of camera.
That seems like exactly what we're trying to do right now. Like, we had no plan, we had no preparation. So you know what? We have access to a broadcasting channel. We have access to 10 teachers. Let's put them in front of a board and make them teach. I want to pull in Stacey here because she was about to say something earlier. Yeah. Stacey, over to you.
Yeah, so up to the board of the board of supervisors within each constituency. So when you have a supervisor of education, you have a one-on-one impact with these children within your constituency. So therefore, you can now be able to identify the children's weak points and work with them and build their strong points. But that is not being done. So it's the education system is in a total disaster at this moment.
Disarray. Is in a disarray, and it favors those who have and leaves behind those who fall in the have-nots category. And it's sad and it's unfortunate, but that actually continues to perpetuate the cycle of this prestige education mentality versus those who pass for the I don't want to call them this, but they failed schools. They're failed schools because to keep they fail to make a fair, and it should be fair. It should be fair the same education. And if you cannot guarantee that a child that is going to Mukurap or senior secondary school is going to get access to the same level of education that a child is going to Fatima school, then you are considered a failed school. You may produce winners. There may be students who would rise above their circumstances. They may rise above their own personal disadvantages and excel. And to those students, kudos, big credit. But for those who can't do the same tenacity you have, they are being failed by an education system that is definitely not designed to make sure that they are all given aim and equal advantage. I want to read something here up on education. We did go into this a while, and I think it deserved the level of discussion that we had here. I mean, we always talk about best practices, success leaves clues. And one of the education models that the Progressive Empowerment Party is particularly focused on is the Finland teaching system. And I know, Keisha, you would be familiar with that. And it sums up in two paragraphs everything about our education system and everything about it that is lacking and failing. And it goes, as the world changes, so must teaching. To remain at the cutting edge, both the school system and learning methods must change to keep up with the changing world. Again, this is referencing the Finland model of education. The greatest threat to this future school is clinging to our past achievements. If we compare the workplace of the 1980s with the workplace today, we see a very different picture. Digitalization is undoubtedly one of the great reformers in work, and the reformers should also be made in the school world. Rapid changes in society, such as globalization and transformations in work, have introduced new challenges for schools and learning. Work is now increasingly done in projects with non-permanent teams solving complex issues together. Information is not only acquired but also created together. And traditionally, teachers have primarily taught school subjects. However, today and this is the Finnish model, they are moving away from subjects and towards a future where teachers will increasingly teach comprehensive learning skills. This will make teaching this will make teaching more problem and phenomenon based. And I have to agree. The world is absolutely changing, and the way we approach education definitely has to evolve. And it shouldn't take a crisis to encourage us to try new ways of things. And I mean, I would have to thanks to this crisis that we are now discovering making education digital, learning an experience that is not just classroom based, but allowing students to use the computer, use technology to advance us. But we are still, from what we're discussing this morning, we're still light years behind really taking our education model into the 21st century. I mean, everything we discussed today, from the prestige schools versus the secondary schools, from the lack of a proper structured system to manage the schools within the constituency across the country to make sure that all students have access to the same level of education and learning, it is clearly lacking. And I mean, again, while I'm happy to see the government take a page out of the PEP handbook and implement online learning and different methods of educating our students, we definitely still have a lot of work to do.
And one thing to repeat, if you allow me, before I go, just talking to as you just talked about the Finland model, I just want to make this point, and this is something I'm really passionate about with respect to using technology in schools. Then produced a report outlining the skills that companies needed most in 2020. And they have the 5 soft skills and 10 hard skills. But I want to point out that skills. Out of the 10 hard skills, 7 of them were directly technology based. Developing, analytical reasoning, artificial intelligence, UX design, affiliate marketing, scientific computing, video production. These are the kind of hard skills that they want in future employees, well, even from now, right? And I'm telling you, dealing with students and teaching them online, just because they're good at social media and gaming doesn't make them automatically ready for using technology professionally. On more than one occasion, I've had to show students how to send an email with an attachment. Okay? So the skill level is, in terms of professional use of technology amongst our students in the region, is basically low. It's really low, and we really have to make some changes. I've seen Barbados is making that commitment, Jamaica is making that commitment, and once again Trinidad is left holding the bar. We're still trying to play catch up only when we're through. And that needs to change, and I'm getting that, and I believe that change is not going to happen until change happens politically. And I believe the PP is the one to bring about that change. So I think I'll stop
Agreed,
there.
Keisha, yes.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your contribution. I mean, the topic, this was actually called Have We Been Caught With Our Pants Down? And it seems that we have,
yeah.
our education system has really been exposed for the hobbling fast that it is. And again, out of this, I can only hope that people point out the holes and the clear failures of the system and really address us taking education forward, really address us advancing as a nation. We don't want to be left behind as a world. I mean, you're mentioning that countries like Barbados and Jamaica are ahead of us, and we were supposed to be the absolute leaders in the Caribbean, and here we are today playing catch up with countries that 10 years ago we used to laugh. It's really unfortunate, but you know what? Hopefully a change, and the change that a pandemic brings, which also involves a change in political systems, hopefully that is what we need to take our country forward. Thank you very much for joining us this morning and bringing your knowledge to the conversation.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take care.
All right. We're going to take a pause for a quick break and come back and discuss a very relevant topic, I think. Is doubles or KFC more important than doubles? It's a question that people are asking, and it's something that I'd like to take to the nation and address with this. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us because we will be right back.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us.
Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us, so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go? We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption. Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate, and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support. I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
We are back Trinidad and Tobago, and to answer Carol Elizabeth Ramsumer on the live video, if we're going to be discussing anything other than education, I'm sorry that we may have been talking about education too long, Carol, but I do think that it is an important aspect of what is happening right now. I think we're talking a lot about debts and recoveries and how we're going to move forward as a nation. But examinations are and was around the corner. Tomorrow would have been the SEA examination. And I do think this was a very pertinent time to bring education into the discussion. But no, it's not all we're going to talk about. We're actually going to move on to a much lighter topic, which is doubles versus KFC. And it may sound light, but it's actually a very serious and important question, because last night, while I was working on the brief for this morning program, Philip would have sent me that image that if you're on his WhatsApp broadcast list, if you have him as a friend on Facebook, you would have seen it. And it raises a very important question. COVID-19 has seen the shutting down of several businesses across the nation. If you're not considered essential, most likely you would be at home just like I am today, twiddling your thumbs or watching me, Anthony and Stacey live on Pep Talks in the morning. And one of those businesses that have been impacted is, and one of those businesses is the doubles vendors who, unfortunately, because of the practice of lining up for doubles, are no longer able to provide that service, which many lamented because to some people, doubles is an essential service. But on the flip side, we have KFC, which is open last night actually, and I have to say this publicly, I took a vow not to eat KFC for the rest of my life, and I had to almost break it last night when everywhere was closed, but the drive-thru was open. And when I pulled up to KFC drive-thru, sorry, KFC was open. When I pulled up to the drive-thru, because I was real hungry, wasn't in the mood to go home and cook anything, because I don't know about anybody else, but cooking is getting old real fast. I pulled up to get some KFC, and I was motioned that inside and said, the drive-thru is closed, but you can come inside of the restaurant and purchase. So I'm looking inside the restaurant. I counted 1, 2, 3 girls working behind the cashier and about 4 other people lining up to buy KFC. I didn't get the image from Philip at the time, but it does beg the question because there's not a doubles man to be found anywhere. Right now it's literal salt. And now that I can't get doubles is now that I'm feeling it the most. But why is it and how is it that KFC is allowed to be open, and how is it that they're an essential service but doubles is not? Is there some differentiation between being in a restaurant lining up and lining up outside a double stand for doubles? Tony, Stacey, jump in.
I would love, yeah, well, I would tell you this. Aside from everything, it's just my concern is, even before getting to that point as to who should be open for who shouldn't, what has the Ministry of Health put into place for the establishments that is able to still operate where food is concerned, where the workers dispensing the food to the public what are the protocols? Because I will tell you, I am actually in KFC recently, and I saw that they have put a couple of things in place for the public on the outside. They blockade the area where you cash and so on. But I look to the back where the workers are. Yes, they are wearing gloves, but no one is wearing a mask. And I'm just thinking to myself, if these are people preparing food for the and you have a gestation period of approximately 14 to 40 days virus, how are we or the institutions also if you have workers preparing food that may be contaminated or sick without having to show any of the virus? Again, it's a key point of spreading the disease, and also that there should be proper calls in place across the board. If not just having to wear gloves, having a face mask in the event that a worker may cough or sneeze or what have you, at least there's a protective area that would not allow droplets of saliva or whatever to be spread within the work area. From the hair nets, you talk. I mean, the point is how are we doing things right now? Safeguarding. There's so many different layers to this. It is so vast, and there's so many things that you have to account and to scrutinize. Again, we are trying to stop the spread of a virus that we did not ask for. It's on the ground here because of gross incompetence by our leaders and people in charge. We've allowed it to come onto the island in itself, where we had a great opportunity to actually be somewhat from what was happening in the world, because we had the opportunity, we had up in knowing when this thing had shown itself on the international stage. There was enough time for us to ensure we could have secured our country. Now that we have made the misstep, or should I say the government of the day making the misstep misstep in allowing this virus on the island here in Trinidad and Tobago, allowing carnival to happen, bringing 20,000 plus people on the shores of Trinidad and Tobago. The point of the matter is that yes, it's here. So what is the protocol that we are putting in place aside from segregating the people, telling everyone to stay home? The people who are going out to, let's say, purchase KFC, what are the protocols for the said KFC workers to ensure that they themselves can be somewhat in a controlled environment, having controlled protocols and initiatives, again, to safeguard because I saw my own eyes and I'm seeing in the public, there were workers without face masks, and I'm just saying, you're having these said workers talking over the food, having discussion over what is being served to the public.
But not just that, Anthony, you have the same situation where the person cashing and taking your money is the person who dishing out your food. And if I had to compare it to a doubles vendor, it's actually opposite. With a doubles vendor, there's one man who takes your money and one man who hands you the doubles. So if I had to pick between the two, I would rather actually go to the doubles vendor. So in that case, how come doubles have to close down but KFC open?
Well, again, is one law for one and another law for the other.
I see the Minister of the Public Order. I see it was revised to say that we are no longer allowing 10 people to congregate at one time. It has now been dropped to 5, and it's 5 no matter your relation to the person. So if you're an extended family of 6, you can be possibly disbanded and arrested. I don't know how they're going to do that. So try not to move around as a family if you know you have more than 2, 3, 4, 5 children. Again, I'm really not sure about how they plan to implement and police that. But we have these acts being revised and altered for what I guess is the amended response to this COVID virus, and the fact that the numbers are going up with a number of low volume local spread that we are experiencing right now. Yet, in essential cities, and I'm talking about places like the workplace. Workplaces have more than 5 people. Maxis, as much as they can't take their full capacity, buses, they have more than 5 people. So is this isolation that we have, is it really making sense based on what we are trying to accomplish? We're saying we're trying to stop the spread. We're amending numbers. We're making it even harder to gather in groups. Yet, like the KFC that I counted the 6 people in last night, the fact the drive-thru was not even open, which I felt would have been an easier and more practical situation based on the fact that we are trying to avoid the transmission of a virus and people congregating in too many people congregating in one space. Are we really approaching this isolation thing properly? Are we really putting a lot of thought into it? Because if we are, what makes the KFC outlet different to the doubles vendor operating? What makes it different? We all have to traverse the public at some point. Is it that us 5 people by a taxi, a double stand is not as sanitary as 5 people inside KFC? I don't understand it. I really don't.
And
again, one law for one.
It, yeah. And the sad truth about it, Felicia, from KFC is more costly than doubles, of course. And some people, when come and stuff, they would have like a $10 they could have their meal there, and they would go home. So now, how are they surviving, or what are they eating?
Anthony, you're going to say something?
Well, again, we having leaders that are not sure as to how to run a country. Because if you're going to have KFC open the same way KFC have step points that can indicate to the public exactly where we stand for social distancing. It's the same way that we can have a protocol put in place for doubles vendors across the country. I mean, why is it only to the KFC outlets? I mean, it should, even though it may have been KFC initiate that in itself within their business model. The government was supposed to create a set model, and this, all these little paragraphs indicating and helping the public as to how they're supposed to treat in the public space, interacting the food you're buying, whether it be groceries, whether it be gas you're putting in the car. I mean, something as simple as holding the handle for dispensing a gas into your vehicle. You know, they think that the gas station should have either gloves or napkins or something where each individual hold the handle with, and you know, simple things, simple little protocols that can go a very long way. But again, none of it put into the public, and it seems as if, again, the government simply know exactly what it is they need to really do. They're just pulling things out of their hat, pulling things out of the sky, throwing it into the public, and expect us to just be okay with it. I mean, constantly we are seeing the mistakes every step of the way, and we keep saying they are being very reactive, not being proactive. And this is where our problem lies, because it's when the shit fan, excuse the French, Trinidad and Tobago, but this is the reality we are living in. When the shit hits the fan, it's the people who are the ones that are getting messed up. It is the people who are facing the brunt in real time, and now and still not having anywhere or anyone to go to get help or to have issues addressed directly with proper solutions that work. Okay. We are coming up very soon to a rainy season. Tell me if the country right now is prepared to deal with any floods whatsoever, on top of a pandemic, on top of a possible economic turnaround, the economy falling apart, us not protecting our borders. Right. Who are we turning to? The citizens. Who? When are we going to have someone that we can look up to and know and be sure that, yes, this person is seeking our interest and we will have betterment because we are seeing it, because we are experiencing it? We are continuously talking.
Go ahead, Anthony, you're talking.
Go ahead.
I was just going to read two comments that I saw. This delay that we have is going to have us talking over each other. No, I was just looking at two comments on the live. So what are you going to do in an office or the emergency room? Which is true, where you have more than 5 people mingling. And then Stephen Downer asked, does this mean that all KFC workers are immune from COVID-19, especially in dealing with food? That's a good question. Maybe KFC workers, there's something in the chicken or in the oil that makes you less susceptible to to getting the virus. I mean, I'm being facetious here because it is an obvious question, and I did have it noted to discuss today, Anthony. Is this isolation thing really working? Because you have people, you're saying no to the doubles vendors, but you have KFC workers, and I don't just want to single out KFC because there are other restaurants that are open, and this is not just to shine a light on them only. It's just to ask, where is the line, and is it drawn with invisible ink or something? Because I don't understand what would differentiate one over the other. And when I ask the question, is isolation really working? You have these KFC workers, you have these pizza workers, Royal Castle, whatever restaurant that you are own or work in, and you have to get to work through some means, right? And you have to go home to what I believe is a family for some of us. Are you, and you're doing this every day, is that really how we plan to isolate? And let me put it this way, does that make isolation efficient if you still have that communication to and that commute, to and from your workplace and home? And the question begs, if now we find that this isolation is not working because the local spread and the community spread starts to increase, are we then going to extend the quarantine period a further 2 weeks to see what is going to happen? Are we now going to implement a SOE show full lockdown? What is the exact plan? And it seems like we're doing things on, seems like we're not sure. We're testing it out. Maybe when another death comes up, okay, you know what, let's drop the numbers from 10 to 5. Let's react to what we should actually be proactively thinking about.
And there's no, Felicia, there's no proper planning at all in facing of this pandemic situation here. I would like to reiterate something here. We had the Vice President of Venezuela, Ms. Delcy Rodriguez, entering our country while our borders were closed and was not subjected to the mandatory 14-day quarantine period. Visited the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Did the Prime Minister get any testing? Was he tested for the COVID-19? And
no, they said that they sat 3 feet apart, so that's okay.
Felicia, what is baffling to me, world leaders are using the technology platform now. What was so important that the Prime Minister and the Vice President of Venezuela had to interact face to face, and why was the public not informed of what was taking place? There was no media coverage based on that. None at all.
Pep media, within a week of this virus happening, researched and found an online platform that allowed us to bridge the gap of isolation and be able to host a online program broadcasted every morning live to you from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. That was a plug. But from allowing us to be in different places in our home coming to you. You are telling me the government and the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago don't have any video broadcasting capabilities that would allow the Vice President from Venezuela to do a video conference with us here in Trinidad and Tobago. Skype, Zoom, Facebook, WhatsApp, all free platforms that allow you to do video conferencing. What was so important? What was so important, like Stacey brought up, that you needed to hop on a plane, breach our No Borders Open Act, while we have citizens in countries like Suriname and wherever they are in the world begging to come home, some even threatening lawsuits, not able to come home, but we open the borders for the Vice President. And I mean, Keith Rowley, Zoom, ZOOM.com, Google it. Is a platform that you can use should you need to do any urgent meetings with anybody across the world. I promise you it works. Any internet system that you have, log on, get their username, have that interface. Because, I mean, we can't be talking social distancing. I actually went to the beach before people jumped on my throat. I went to the beach on the first Wednesday of the COVID-19 lockdown. I went to the beach and there was literally nobody on the beach. It was empty. I had a nice spot to myself. I bathed in the water. I had no interaction with anybody. And I got a lot of judgment from some people. Oh my God, we're in isolation. How could you go to the beach? And I said, are they the same people who lining up outside PriceSmart, the bank, and restaurants to buy food? What is the difference between me going to the beach by myself, having no interaction with people, and you having all of these interactions with others? What makes your isolation different from mine? And what gives you an advantage of not contracting the virus over me? And I think a lot of people are missing that level of critical thinking that allows you to really understand what we're going through. You're saying we're in isolation, but you're meeting with the Vice President of Venezuela, sitting, according to you, 3 feet apart. There was no touching. But then how is that different from somebody deciding to go to the beach alone? How is
Yes,
it
and
good?
our
KFC
borders were
different from
closed.
my doubles? Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Stacey.
Our borders were closed, Felicia. She was allowed to enter our country while our borders were closed. Um, we are in the middle of a health crisis, but you know what? Let's bring someone from another country here and let us have a face-to-face interaction because I am the prime minister and I can do whatever. You know, it's your need technology. World leaders are using it right now. You know, this is what we are doing right now. Technology
Exactly.
platform is the way.
I would also like at this point to remind people that it's 9:30, so we are opening up the lines for you to talk your talk, call in and give your take on anything that we would have discussed this morning. We touched a lot on education, and we're now talking about this renewed or new form of isolation that we are under, where we have some essential workers and essential businesses being allowed to open, whereas non essential businesses are closed. And in these essential businesses, we have the commute of people between their workplaces and home. And we're asking the question, what is this isolation really about and is it working? The number to call in is 769-4590. I would love to hear your take on everything we would have been discussing this morning because I think it is an interesting topic and it is for me concerning because like I said, we're in week 3 of this lockdown and the numbers are still going up. I believe last night we had the 4th from the COVID-19 virus. The patient who was listed as critical has now passed away. I saw that news come out in the early morning, in the early hours of the morning, and it will likely lead to stricter rules as it pertains to quarantining yourself in the upcoming days and weeks. But it also poses a question of how long are we going to be in isolation for, and are we really using isolation as it's meant to be? Because we're allowing certain things to happen. Yes, like yesterday, I saw outside of RBC in on Independence Square and Scotiabank lines that were bending around the corner because it's month end and it's pension time. Something that we saw coming 2 weeks ago and still did not put in place, still did not put measures in place to mitigate the confusion that we witnessed yesterday. Stephen Reeves would have been on the promenade doing a video that shared madness on, and I'm asking the question: where is the 3 feet rule, and where is the no more than 5 people congregating at one time when you have people lining up outside of a bank? And the sad thing is, because it's pension time, it's all of our senior citizens lining up outside of the bank. Are we really making any sense? Are we making sense as it pertains to mitigating the spread of this COVID-19 virus? Tony, jump in.
And we are not dispensing the right protocols for the public to operate under. It's that simple. You have a bank, yes, you're going inside and you're having the space and you want to practice social distancing on the inside of the bank, allowing 5 to 10, but you have outside a whole line of people just a foot, 2 feet away from each other, in some cases closer. I mean, we're defeating the whole purpose right there. Right there. And you know, I would again, you know, we here in Trinidad and Tobago, the silver lining that we have in all of this, all of the negativity that we are faced with as a nation and as a citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, we have a unique opportunity to reboot the republic, design a platform and an agenda for Trinidad and Tobago forward with, put what needs to be placed within our own capacity right now, within our own infrastructure that we can use as tools in moving the nation forward. Again, we said earlier in the show, we have local manufacturing that we can develop in a major way. We have agriculture, the agriculture sector, the farming sector that it's a #1 priority, because we must be able to feed the nation as a whole, self-sufficiency, where that is food independence, real food independence. Our education, like we were talking earlier in the program, again, another opportunity for us right now to retool to the 21st century, to create a model that can be now open to the public, where our students and children are concerned, and utilizing the technology that we do have, something that makes more, something that gives greater training towards our young people minds and the way that they're able to learn. The time is different. Our healthcare system put major emphasis on that, because we know we do not have a healthy population. And if we as a nation now have to be segregated from the world because ships slowed, air traffic has slowed, exports and imports has also slowed, only because everyone has basically quarantined themselves, we don't know what the end result of this virus is going to be on an international scale, on a global scale. If the way we conduct business is going to be anywhere close to the same as to what we were accustomed to before this entire thing came upon us as this virus, we have to anticipate the absolute worst. We cannot just hope for the best and deal with the issues as they come. We must, like Alberta said earlier in the show as well, we have to have proper plans, protocols for a wide arrangement of a best case scenario, a middle case scenario, a worst case scenario, and knowing in some way, form, or fashion, at least the steps before these things were to happen, what we need to do and take in order to safeguard ourselves as a country, as our citizens are concerned. And that is it's simple, no-brainer type sense, really and truly. And again, we having people who are our leaders that is calling themselves who is doctors, doctorate and masters and bachelors and all of this, and the position that we're still left in, we are now into our Heritage and Stabilization Fund with a meager $6 million US basically taking 1 million out of that. By what? The coronavirus? Are we actually pacifying that particular situation? They're talking about using a chunk of that money to pay dues, to tax returns and so on, something that was supposed to be done. How long ago? Something that the country was already supposed to cater for and put in place and have ready and set to pacify, if that is something that was needed. So you're taking money out of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, but it's not going directly to deal with the corona issue. It's basically to put more plasters on different sores that we have as a nation, that the population was dealing with even before the virus came upon us. We are now using that money that is supposed to, again, Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Heritage meaning our future generations to come having some kind of nest egg and a financial package in helping them move themselves forward and in developing the country even further. And the stabilization part of it is for this said issue that we are dealing with right now, to bring stabilization to the economy. But what are we doing? We have to wait for the shit to hit fan, and now we are trying to clean the mess up, when this should not have ever been the case to begin with. And to date, in this pandemic, in this issue that we are dealing with economically, locally here in Trinidad as well as on a global scale, is why we are in the position that we're in, not being able to look to anyone but ourselves for help. We are still making missteps and still allowing our leaders to continuously make missteps in our names, and us have to deal with the consequences and repercussions from their mistakes. Again, we talk about putting politics aside, but it's politics that have us here to begin with. We must bring the minds the blood, the tears, the people of Trinidad and Tobago together. We must identify ourselves as Trinbagonians, Trinidad and Tobagonians, and create an agenda for Trinidad and Tobago and its citizens moving forward with a self-sufficiency capability. In the worst case scenario, we are not able to look outside of the shores of Trinidad and Tobago. What can we look at here on the ground in sustaining not just our economy, but the country as a whole, across board? Are we having that discussion yet? Our scholars are our brainiacs and all the sycophants and all the people that talking about solutions and who should do this from who shouldn't do that. Are they coming together? Are we having this discussion? Are we pulling up the socks of the present day government and administration that is running this country in having proper dialogue on our way forward for Trinidad and Tobago and its citizens? No. It is only the Progressive Empowerment Party and our members and our affiliates that is running around like chickens without a head, and people on the outside looking at us like mad people. We have said before, to date has already come to pass, because we were talking this even before Carnival came, when we heard about the coronavirus, and we, within our own administration, did the research that we had to do in knowing how serious this can possibly be, and still create these and initiatives that can possibly help us moving the country forward in this environment. But we were crazy, we were blowing things out of proportion. But here now you have your own ministers and you have your own same trolls and sycophants talking now that yes, we're supposed to do the right thing and we're supposed to do this and do that and do the other. So who's looking mad now? Who's now?
Who is? And we have not even...
Progressive Empowerment Party, yeah? I'm not trying to plug it. The point is,
no,
that facts is...
Plug it. No, I was going to say, Anthony, we haven't even touched on the fact that in the midst of all of this COVID-19 drama, apart from us getting this impromptu visit by the Vice President of Venezuela, we also had the candies that were thrown out on to the, I don't want to single out the community because they are not the issue here. The issue is the fact that our Prime Minister made the announcement that $10 million was being contributed towards building of a cathedral and $50 million towards upgrades of hotels in Tobago. And you have to ask the question, if this is a critical time in our economy, if this is a dire time in the operation of the country, if we are in a crisis, if we are in an emergency, why are we putting money to give to what I would consider non-essential aspects of managing and dealing with a crisis? Why are we talking hotels now at a time when we should be talking and hospital beds and ventilators and masks and equipment to keep people alive? Why are we talking churches and building cathedrals when we have homeless people on Riverside Plaza who are spending this what is supposed to be a COVID isolation period roaming the streets with no proper shelter and roof over their heads? Why are we constantly putting out money and pelting money where it is least needed and ignoring the places where it is most? Why do we continue to operate as a country as if we have no idea where we're going or any indication of where we would like to be? And these are questions that I am asking because thinking about it rationally, you have to ask the question, why are we spending money or proposing to spend money on things that have no immediate benefit for the wider country? And don't tell me that we're investing in tourism at a time when we know that nobody in the world is traveling. I was checking out flights for May. I mean, that was in March, which was a day ago. I was checking out flights in May because my birthday is in May, and they're saying, flights are really cheap now. Nobody is traveling, and you're getting advisories telling you that nobody is going to be traveling for a while now, and for the leave vacationing and stuff like that. So why are we injecting money into something that we're not going to get the returns from for months or maybe even years to come? We have no idea the outcome of this COVID-19 virus. Experts are saying that this may go on to well past a year. Why are we only forward thinking? And somebody made the point to me that now is the time to invest not agriculture. Now is the time to invest in tourism, because as we're having downtime, we should inject that money into the economy. How come we only have forward thinking when it comes to spending money? How come we didn't have the foresight and forward thinking when we found out on January 31st that this was a dangerous disease and we needed to lock down everything? Where was the forward thinking then?
Reactive,
Felicia,
continuous
concerning that,
reaction.
when I read that article about the money to the cathedral and stuff, and I was thinking to myself, it's now the time to really make that wise decision. That is not a wise decision at all. There's no planning, there's no strategy. Right now we are in a health crisis. The country needs the money, the citizens need the money for masks, all those things like that. How about you take that same money and invest it back into the country? It makes no sense. Their priorities are mixed up.
I have to say, based on public pressure, that to be and I mentioned of the $10 million for the church and the $50 million for the hotels in Tobago. We're now being told that $53 million is being allocated to fight the COVID virus in Tobago. And I have to ask this question: before we pelted out, we throw out money to the hotels and the churches, how come we only now realize that Tobago needs help with fighting the COVID virus? How come we didn't know that when we were saying back in January that we were prepared to deal with any crisis that may hit our shores? How come we only equipped Trinidad for the crisis but not Tobago? Is that the way we are thinking proactively?
It seems that again, it's just them showing their gross incompetence where leadership is concerned. Tobago had a perfect opportunity. They did not have one case. We could have segregated that country so well, protected that country so well, not even have local travel back and forth, and fuel the country where you had a place that literally was virus free, was COVID-19 free. And if we wanted to even create an environment where you want to go over to Tobago because we are sure that it's free of the COVID-19, you go through your quarantine period here in Trinidad, whether it be for the 14 days or for, I would say a month. Once you get your clearing papers, we have a special ferry or what taking those people across there. We know that we have a quarantine area that people are basically protected, that is not infected, but instead it was business as usual. People leave from Trinidad, go to Tobago. You had international flights still touching down here on the island. I mean, we dealing with it reactively again, not proactively.
Well said, Anthony. Well said. Correct, Anthony. Well said.
And the citizens are the ones left to ask the questions of the people who are supposed to be responsible for the leadership and stewardship of this country. And again, I didn't want to do this with my life, but somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be the one to hold the government responsible and accountable. And I can't believe the people who would defend the actions right now of the kind of spending that we are proposing to make in a time that we're talking about tightening our belts. We're talking about the economy and having to dip into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, but we're still finding money for things that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of any right-thinking citizen, is not critical or essential at this point in time. We had this taxi driver on our program yesterday who was saying that he worked taxi for the past 10 years, and he is one of the people who is not no longer, but he's not entitled to the grants that the government is giving out because he is a self-employed man, and this is for people who would have
What does
been
he do?
retrenched or he's a taxi driver.
Yeah, but what
But
does he do now where his family is concerned? There's a large portion of the population that depends on either taxi up and down, even maxi taxi drivers,
that
for
is
example,
it,
don't have
Anthony.
the number. You don't have the people traveling on the road right now. The country is taking a major financial, and there's nothing across board that government is putting into the public in allowing the population to understand how their safety net will be. It's as if it's man for him, and that's Did you guys hear me? Did that?
No, it broke up on my end. Sorry, if you could repeat that.
Well, I'm just saying that we have a large part of the population that has not been addressed. Taxi drivers across board throughout the entire country, there is almost still of customers that are traveling on the road. We are self-quarantining ourselves. The government have not put in place where taxi drivers are concerned, and how are they supposed to get some type of stipend in order to allow themselves and their families to survive in this time of quarantine, in this financial downturn situation right now. What are they going to do? We are faced with a very situation, and we have nothing to pacify it in any way, form, or fashion. We are about to hit a brick wall, Hear me and hear me, Tobago. If we are not taking change seriously and we are not making the right decisions, we as the citizens will be running directly into brick wall. It will hurt. It will hurt.
60,000 families could have gotten groceries valued at $1,000 each family with the money we are about to spend on rebuilding and remodeling hotels and refurbishing churches in Trinidad and Tobago. 60,000 families. And to put that in numbers for you, a constituency holds approximately 30,000 people in it. You could get 2 out of 41 constituencies in this country can benefit from that kind of money that we're talking about. And when I talk of the 41, you can spread that across the entire population of Trinidad and Tobago. Look at the people who are the people who need these services the most, because there are people who don't have access, just like the taxi driver, they don't have access to the grants that the government is offering. They don't have a steady means of employment. They were daily paid workers, and they're now in a situation where they have to try and find the money somewhere. And you see, what a lot of people maybe not realizing or don't want to pay attention to is the fact that we're already in a situation where the economy was not in the best place. Now you're putting, and you have at-risk communities and people who have no hope and opportunity, they have no recourse. Their next course of action would be, and I don't want to say that it would be targeting and robbing people, but this is why and how we have crime. This is a job of the Ministry of Social Development to ensure that our people are well taken care of, that you don't have to go and loot and rob a grocery to feed and take care of your family. There should be a list. There should be a list in that Ministry of Social Development of people who are well beyond the poverty line, people who cannot fend for themselves and who are going to be the most vulnerable in a period like this. We're already not connected because of this virus. This isolation has made the world even more disconnected. And for those who don't have access to social media, those who don't have access to internet to go online and research all of these grants, we should have the Ministry of Social Development reaching out to them. we should have a process in place whereby these people can access funds, immediate funds to feed their families, whether it's a food card, whether it's a voucher to get groceries or something. People have to live, they have to eat. And these are the same people who will be asking the questions. We're finding money to do everything else, but what about taking care of us and our needs and the most vulnerable, our families, the children who are not going to school, who don't have a laptop, who can't access the same level of education that a child from a family that is well off can. And these are the things these are the questions and the thoughts that we try to provoke in the minds of the citizens, because it's not enough just to say we have a plan and this is what it is, and tell you what to do and amend the laws and tell you it's gone from 10 people to 5 people and 3 feet distance between people when you're lining up. It's not enough to do that when you have bigger questions and more critical things at play in this virus. And it worries me to think about the people in communities and in homes and in households where all is not well. And I know that it is happening and we're not seeing it playing out in front of us yet. But hunger drives a different level of desperation in people. And I don't want us, it would be really unfortunate for us to get to a place where people have to put on those for their family, and rather than let that happen, why not get in front of the situation? We have the Prime Minister asking businesses and asking employers not to lay off people, but why not make it mandatory that you can't? Why not make it mandatory that banks have to put a hold on loan payments for a month, 2 months, 3 months? Why not make it so that landlords cannot evict their clients until their tenants, until this pandemic is over? And I spoke a lot, guys, some time to talk because we have to wrap up soon. It's 2 minutes to the hour of 10, and we had a very long and interesting program. And I think we did touch on a lot of things that impacts us here as citizens together experiencing this COVID-19 quarantine. I'll give you some time to each give your closing comments. Anthony.
In Trinidad and Tobago, we have a perfect opportunity to really retool, revamp Trinidad and Tobago, even in the midst and being faced with such dire straits ahead of us. If we do implement the right policies and the right systems, putting also key and the right people to the job is done, it can be done. We can't fix everything. We can have a level of proper sanity and something that is able to truly bring betterment to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, even in this environment. I am 110% sure of it. Again, we still have a level of resource on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago that we can utilize in helping developing our country forward and bringing a level of security and betterment to the people. We can do it. Again, it's a matter of identifying what is in our possession, identifying exactly where we would like to go and what is actually needed in order to get there. Simple implementation, you know. But that's my 2 cents for the hour. Again, Trinidad and Tobago, thank you for having me and us on, and look out for us again tomorrow.
Thank you, Anthony. Stacey?
Yes, well, same thing. Be safe, everyone. Sanitize, maintain your social distancing and stuff. It's not too late. Trinidad and Tobago, there is hope still under the Progressive Empowerment Party.
Thank you, Stacey, and thank you, Anthony, for joining me this morning on another episode of Pep Talks in the Morning. Thank you to Keisha Lewis, who would have joined us earlier to discuss education and what we are doing and facing with regards to education during this COVID-19 period. Tomorrow on our show, we are going to have the members or the head of our Toronto chapter, Mr. Anthony Sinanan, and Kezia Rampol, who is a member of the Toronto chapter, who is actually stuck here right now in Trinidad. They're both going to join us as we do a little comparison between Trinidad and Canada and the approaches of both countries with regards to mitigating and addressing this virus. We did have a preliminary discussion, and I think you would be interested to know just how far the Canadian government is going to ensure the well-being of all of their citizens, which should be the reason, purpose, and function of any government. It's 10:01 a.m. Thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning. I will see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Stay safe, wash your hands, and isolate. Bye-bye.